Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is John Coughlin. I'm on the community relations team at GitLab. Thanks for joining us for another one of our virtual meetups today. Before we get started, I always like to start our meetups by just making sure everyone's aware of our code of conduct. I just shared a link in the chat box, which explains our code of conduct. We really want to make sure that our community is a welcoming and inclusive environment. And so I just asked everyone to take a brief moment to kind of look over that code of conduct while I'm doing this introduction. And then if you have any concerns or want to report a code of conduct violation, you can either send an email to the email address on that page, or you can just send me a DM in the chat, in the Zoom chat. So there's a chat bubble at the bottom of your screen. If you open that, you'll see, you can send a message to everyone or to an individual. And so you can send me a DM if you have any concerns. While you have the chat box open, I'd love to hear, or I guess see is probably more appropriate, where folks are from. So, just share your location in there. We tend to get a pretty global community for these events. So it's always cool to see, which countries and states and other places people are joining us from. Yeah, so thanks for being with us here today. I'm really excited for this. For folks that are new to GitLab or maybe don't know too much about GitLab, I just wanted to give a quick overview. So GitLab's a complete DevOps platform delivered as a single application. So you get one interface, one conversation, one permission model for your entire software development lifecycle. The product has thousands of features, really exciting stuff, and we release every month on the 22nd. I saw recently in the past 3 years, we've released over 1,900 new features. So we're always kind of continuously improving the product, and it's really a great platform for everyone who's a developer or works with developers. It's an open core company, so we do have a large number of our features that are available as kind of open software, free open source software. And then there are some other features, for enterprises that are paid. But whether it's for the free open source software or for the paid tiers, everyone can contribute. We have a very active community. More than 3,000 people have contributed code or documentation or kind of other contributions to GitLab since we started. So a really big community, really active community, and thank you all for being part of it. By attending this meetup, you're officially part of the GitLab community. So kudos to the newcomers. I do see some familiar faces, though, so it's really nice to see as well. What's up, Mario and Karan? Yeah, other cool things about GitLab, we're the largest all-remote company in the world. So if you're recently started working remotely due to the global pandemic and looking for tips and best practices, we have lots of information in our handbook. Our handbook is totally publicly available. Like much of what we do at GitLab, we try to be really transparent. Our roadmaps, our strategy, everything we do to run the company, is all publicly available. So I'd highly recommend you check that out if you're trying to figure out how to set up your home office or do remote interviews or lots of the other changes that are happening to the workforce as people shift rapidly to remote. But the reason you're here today is to hear from Christina. She's our new-ish education program manager, and so she'll be giving an overview of that program and kind of insights into the roadmap as well. And then we'll do breakout groups. So that'll be a chance for folks to kind of just have small conversations, the same way you would at your kind of local community meetups where you maybe grab a beer or a slice of pizza after the talk. We'll just be doing that in Zoom. Before we get started, I'd ask that folks, give themselves some time to really settle in and relax and enjoy this presentation. So, close all the tabs that you have open, mute your Slack, and just give yourself, some time to listen and learn. And with that, I'll hand it over to Christina.
All right, thanks, John, for the great introduction. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, okay, awesome. So thanks for introducing me here. Let me make sure I get my controls. There we go. So as John mentioned, my name is Christina Hupy, and I am located in West Lafayette, Indiana in USA, and I joined GitLab back in November as a senior education program manager, and that's what we're here to talk about today is the education program and what we offer, and then engage with all of you about how GitLab can be used in education. I have my contact information there, so feel free to reach out to me, and as we continue to grow the program, you can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and those will be some great places to start getting some new information. So John mentioned a little bit about the product, but I really like this figure because it shows you that GitLab is really an end-to-end product for the software development lifecycle, all the way from manage through planning, creating, and through to secure. And so it's an amazing tool for project planning, source code management, all the way through those monitoring and security pieces that you would use if you're into the heart of software development. And I show this just because there's so many things that you can do with GitLab for education. It's an amazing collaborative tool. It's a great way to share your content. And so I want to kind of keep revisiting this as we go through the presentation today to kind of think about and really hear from all of you how you're using GitLab in teaching and learning and doing research at your various educational institutions. So as John mentioned, we are one of the world's largest remote companies. We have over 1,000 employees and 300 plus pets in 67 locations. And we don't actually have a physical office. Some of you who are more familiar with us may know that, but we all work remotely, whether that's all probably right now at home. But sometimes we work from, group workplaces or the library or coffee shops or wherever it is that we want to be. And I think it's really important to note that we have 3,000 contributors. You'll see this number pop up again a couple times throughout the presentation, but that is really amazing. That's the number of people who have contributed to our platform. And that's one of the really exciting things. And it really speaks to how important our mission is of part of what our company does. If you see there, we really want to change all creative work from read only to read write so that everyone can contribute. And Git technology is such a core part of that. And I think it has such a place in higher education. And I would love to help spread. That's what we're here to do, is really help spread that in education. I wanted to just mention our community advocates team here. So the community advocates team is part of the marketing department or marketing organization at GitLab. And we have a couple different programs that we run here. And unfortunately, I don't have time to talk about all of them. So I'm going to talk about the contributor program and the evangelist program. But I do want to make sure that you're all aware that we do have an open source program. So I talk to a lot of students who go, start companies and they're open source. And so we do offer open source licenses as well. And I'm going to take a pause here and see if I know we at least have Sam, and if Sam can say hello real quick, that would be great. She's one of our community advocates.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha. Like Christina said, I'm one of the community advocates on the community relations team. And yeah, excited to be here. Thanks, Christina.
Yep. The community advocates are really the workhorse behind our program. They process all the applications and communicate with all of you on a regular basis. So big shout out to the community advocates for helping us get the program up and running. Do we have any other advocates on the call? No, okay, we're going to move on then to the next topic of the day. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we do as a team. Really, we're here to help others inspire others to contribute. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that, and we'll touch on some of those today. But I think that's a key part of learning while you're at an institution or teaching, is to really think about how your work and what you're learning can contribute to some greater thing. And that's a really exciting part of what the platform is really set up to do. We foster a culture of leadership. We amplify our outreach with evangelists. We connect with our community with experts who work at GitLab and are also in the community themselves. And then we really take a lot of time and thought into recognizing our contributors. So just to take a quick look at the numbers, again, like I mentioned, we have a very large community of millions of users, over 3,000 code contributors. There's a lot of stats there. I'm not going to go all the way through them, but we did hit 2 really cool milestones this past quarter: 3,000 code contributions and 10,000 plus Meetup contributors over 23 countries. And that's one of the things I wanted to highlight today, is that this is a virtual meetup, but what we would love to see is all of you hosting meetups with your community, and we can join and bring speakers and really kind of start that conversation and just provide another avenue for people to connect and learn. And then we'll talk about this a little bit as well. We have 1.76 million seats that we've issued through the education program here at GitLab to over 700 different institutions. So it's quite a large program. And with the spirit of a minimal viable change, it was a minimal viable program started back in 2018 and really run by the advocates. And I came on board in November to help grow the program and start providing more resources and connecting with the community. So we're just kind of on the cusp of that, and that's one of the reasons why we're kicking this off today, is to kind of start hearing from you about what you need to be successful and what interests you about GitLab. I'm just going to fly through these pretty quickly here, just because I want to get to the heart of the education program. But I want to mention that part of the way that you can contribute is to GitLab is through our code contributor program. And I did share the link to the handbook, to the slideshow in the chat. And all of these are links. So I want to point out this link to the contributor website. It provides a lot of information about our code contributor program. And that is run by Ray Paik on our team. He's out in San Francisco, and he does an amazing job. If you look at the stats here, we've really grown our program a lot, and we see a lot of contributions from the community. And I think it's one of the things that's important to note here is that these are not always, you don't always have to be an expert code builder to contribute. We have a lot of our contributions come from translating our docs into other languages. And I know John may know how many languages we're working on, but I don't know if he wants to put it in the chat there, but it's a lot. And also just finding mistakes in our documentation or adding small details. So there's really a very low barrier to entry into contributing. And if you're a student out there, it's an awesome way to start building your professional portfolio. And if you're an educator, it's a great way to have students feel like what they're learning really relates to the real world, because they're contributing to an open source software project. And we all reward with swag. So swag is always cool, especially if you're a university student or a high school student. And so through our code contributor program, we do a lot of work on recognizing, and Sam actually runs our swag program. So another shout out to Sam on that one. The next thing I wanted to bring up is our Evangelists Program, and that's the program that John runs. And again, here's the Evangelists website that you can check out. And that's one of John's biggest things that he does here at GitLab, is running this meetup program. And we usually do a lot of meetups in person, but obviously with the situation in the world out there today, we've moved to virtual, and we're finding that it's a really cool way to connect with people around the world. If this was an in-person meetup, we wouldn't have all these awesome countries that we're seeing here in the chat come up. So, but this is just a map of where we've had our meetups. And looks like we've crossed this barrier, so we need to update the slide, but 23 countries we've had GitLab meetups, and John has a whole bunch of resources to facilitate that happening, so we make it really super easy. And we have a way that you can be a speaker for another GitLab meetup, or we can find you a speaker for your GitLab meetup if you're learning something specific. So I just wanted to point that out, that we are here to help you facilitate this kind of conversation with your community as well. And then we also have a Heroes program. And as we continue to to reach more out into education, we would love to see students up here or faculty or researchers who are using GitLab. So there's more about that as well. But again, this goes back to the theme that everyone can contribute, and we really do put a lot of effort here at GitLab in recognizing people who are contributing to the program. So this brings us to the education program here, and what we're here to talk about as the main focus, and a couple links again here to our education website that has the application. If you have not already applied, you can apply to the program there. You can read some details and follow what we're up to with the handbook and the issue board, both linking out to, or the issue board linking out to GitLab itself. So just to kind of give you an idea of overall, as I mentioned, the program was started back in 2018 as a minimal viable program. And basically the idea was to help really evangelize and facilitate the adoption of GitLab. And when we say GitLab, I want to make sure that everyone's thinking of it as the idea of DevOps as a kind of a discipline and a thing that we do in software development. Git technology itself, but then also the kind of the company value. So it's this bigger picture thing that we really want to engage a community who are learning and teaching and researching. Kind of encompasses all of these different aspects of what GitLab is as a company, and really help that generation bring it into this next part of their life in the workforce. And then secondly, as John mentioned at the very beginning, we're really, as a company, evangelizing the benefits of working all remotely. And we have a handbook, we have a playbook, so many resources out there on working remotely. And I wrote a blog post on how you can work remotely and how you can use that model in education as well. So we definitely want to evangelize the benefits of working all remotely. But to the specifics of the program, if you're not familiar, GitLab offers free unlimited licenses of Ultimate or Gold to education institutions, and that's all the way K through 12, or that would be elementary, primary, middle, high school, all the way through higher education, universities, community colleges, technical schools are all part of that span for the purposes of teaching, learning, or research. So that is the kind of the big differentiator there. If you want to apply, you have to use the license for the purposes of teaching, learning, or research. If your university wants to use it for managing the university, in terms of IT, what we consider IT professional use, that's actually not included in the program. And I can definitely answer more questions about that when we get to the Q&A session here. But there's more details on this link for program requirements and then our FAQs. And it is an annual renewal for the license. And we offer discounted support as well. And there is the education form. So if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to us at education@gitlab.com. This is a dashboard that our amazing data team has put together for us, just kind of showing how the program has grown over time. So we had a lot of enrollment very early on in the program. We've kind of leveled off a little bit in terms of new enrollment, but we've got hovering around 500 different active institutions and 1.76 million seats that have been issued. So it is a fairly large program. And again, up till now, we've really just been issuing licenses, but we're excited to bring it to a new chapter where we really want to start engaging with all of you and hearing all the exciting things that you're doing with the software, with the software platform, which brings us to the next thing. I have had a chance to speak with some of the users and hear their stories. And I think there's kind of three different areas. So this may be of interest to those of you who are thinking about how can you use GitLab in education. And I think it fits into these three different buckets here. Open science and research. So there's a lot of interesting work out there on how Git can be used to manage scientific data and publications, using continuous integration for analytical workflows, one thing that's really interesting is containerization for reproducibility and versioning, reproducing your results with specific environments that are controlled, and then version analysis, which is really important in scientific research, and then collaborating, so speeding up the time to, if any of you have worked on publications, you know that it can take a long time to collaborate with your with other people on your research team and get the publication out the door. So we've seen that the platform internally has really helped us get things out faster. So I think there's a use case there. And then just the learning of computer science and open source. So anything from the basics of coding all the way through DevOps lifecycle. We've seen universities having students store their code in the platform and then use continuous integration to actually check their work and see if the code works, instead of professors having to manually check the code and run a student script. They can go ahead and just use GitLab to automatically check that code. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about that. And then we've seen some exciting uses of students using their GitLab accounts to showcase their code base, code that they've written. They can contribute to our program through our code contributor program or to other projects. It's a great way to showcase how you collaborate. You can host your blog posts. And also, I think for credibility, you can come to the platform and see the work that students have done, and that builds your credibility in the profession as well. So lots more to dig into, but I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of a couple additional resources and some announcements. So we want to make sure that everyone's aware that you can go to forum.gitlab.com and use the same email address that you've signed up with through your university, and have access to the forum. And there's a lot of great resources on there for questions and answers about the platform. We noticed that a lot of universities don't buy the support, so the community-based support is a great way to get some of your questions answered and share use cases and ideas. And we're just launching an education badge, so if you join, you can go ahead and get an education badge, and we'll start to help people interact through that badge. We also have had a few blog posts. The links are there, and we encourage you to take a look at those. And then we do have our Premier User Conference coming up in 2020, and we have a call for participation in that. So we would love to have our EDU community represented in that event. And so the call for participation link is there, and we hope that you would consider sharing some of the amazing work that you do. And we do know that one of the exciting things about having GitLab in education is that a lot of you are doing very cutting edge research, and we know that you're really pushing the boundaries of what the platform can do and bringing the science forward. And so we think that some of the most interesting things that are happening are out there with you, and so we would love to hear more from you. Following that same thread there, we have we have an open call for education case studies. And that's really where we dig a little bit deeper and talk with you and your team about how you're using GitLab at your university. And there's some examples there. We've talked with the University of Washington, although directly not a university, the European Space Agency is using it for science, and so is CERN. So there's some really amazing examples there, and we'd love to hear from you on that. We're also doing a survey soon to get some metrics around how you're using it and what could help you. So please keep an eye out for that. Sam and I are going to collaborate on a student showcase where we're going to, in a similar video style format, interview students about how they're using GitLab. So please stay tuned for that announcement. And then finally, we are looking at trying to restructure the way that we license the IT professional side of the house with the teaching and learning side of the house. And we're working with our leadership to see if we can configure things to really help you grow your use at the university. And there's a restructuring epic there that explains what we're moving towards. And as always, we would absolutely love any of you to comment on that with your own experiences, because it really helps us get a better picture of what we need to do better to help you grow your use in the platform. So before we head to the prompt, I'm going to go ahead and take a pause here and open it up for questions and comments, and then we'll spend a few minutes doing that and then move into our breakout groups.
Thanks for that, Christina. I have a couple of questions, but before I ask my questions, I was going to see if anybody, either by unmuting and kind of verbalizing, or if you're more comfortable putting in the chat, like, do we have any education users who are at the meetup today, or folks that have used like GitLab for Education license in the past, either as a student or an educator? If you fit that kind of description, I think it'd be cool to see you share in the chat, or just to turn off your mic and verbalize. But while we wait for folks to answer my question, I wanted to ask Christina, like, of those case studies you shared, like, are there any commonalities between how these different institutions are using GitLab? Like any kind of themes that maybe seem to be a great place for educational institutions to start as they adopt GitLab in their education and research?
Sure. I think the simplest way to start is just by using the platform itself to teach the idea of teaching writing code and building code and storing code in a central repository. So teaching Git in a basic computer science class is a really way to kind of get started. Interestingly enough, we've seen quite a few universities, especially in the European regions, using it to manage their research infrastructure. So a lot of universities have code that they're storing for various research projects. And obviously, because they're using that code to run analysis on scientific data sets, they really need to make sure that it's secure, it's reliable, it's accessible, and it's run in a repeatable fashion. And so by storing the scientific data in GitLab and then using those CI/CD features to run it, and also make it available to other people in the research groups across campus, to students and faculty and staff, it's really an interesting use case. So I would say that's a very common one as well. Great question.
Thanks. Yeah, and I see we got a comment in the chat as well from Phil.
Oh yes, IT at William & Mary and use GitLab in a few different capacities. Yes, we see a lot of computer science departments, data science departments, and then again, the research labs as well.
All right, does anyone else have questions they want to verbalize?
Any questions about the program requirements or how the process works?
All right, well, one thing I like to always do at the end of our GitLab meetups, even though we can't be together, I ask folks to unmute and just give a round of applause to our speaker. So if you would turn your mic on and join me in thanking Christina.
Thanks, everyone. Back with you. We do have another question here. Can a student apply directly, or does a university instructor have to sign up first? So at this point in time, if you're looking for the ultimate or gold licenses, which is our top tier, so you get all of the features, and a gold is hosted, and then ultimate you can install on your own campus. We do need a university faculty member or staff member to apply directly. And there's an unlimited number of licenses that we will issue. So once the license is issued to the faculty who's a full-time member, then there can be as many students as they want signing up for that license. And there's a couple of reasons why we do that. Primarily because we need the stability for the license to be issued to someone who will be there more than, say, if a student's graduating, or there's turnover in departments or contact information, it's important for us to have someone who's full-time. And then also, when you sign up for the license, you're agreeing to our legal terms. And so to prohibit commercial use, for example, or redistribution of the software. And so if you're signing up on behalf of the university, we need it to be a faculty member or staff who has that signing right as well. So that's the gold ultimate side. If you're a student and you want to use GitLab for hosting your own, your work or blog posts or outside of the university environment going forward, you can always sign up for our free or basic tiers for that have no cost associated with them, and our open core version, and you can continue using that into the future. So we definitely recommend students use that as well. And then you can always sign up for a trial. So if you have something that you're working on, you can always sign up for a 30-day trial of Gold or Ultimate and use those features for 30 days. So I hope that answers the question on the students. Let's see. We have the Legal Scientific Collaboration and International Gravitational Wave Network. 1,000 active users using GitLab for developing detection pipelines. Awesome. Would love to hear more about that. Does anyone else have any questions about the program?
All right, well, what I'm going to do now is break everyone into groups for smaller discussions.